Hello, kindred spirits of the soil, and welcome back to Earthly Delights. I'm truly happy to have you here with me today. Whether you are caring for a wide outdoor farm, a small balcony garden, or a lush collection of houseplants inside your home, every grower shares the same hope. We want our plants to stay healthy, strong, and full of life. But any experienced gardener knows that problems can appear quickly. Leaves begin to yellow, the soil starts to smell sour, or tiny pests suddenly turn your favorite Monstera into their new home. Now, what if I told you that one of the most useful, eco-friendly, and surprisingly scientific plant helpers may already be sitting in your bathroom cabinet? Yes, I'm talking about that simple dark brown bottle of 3% hydrogen peroxide. For a long time, many people only thought of hydrogen peroxide as something used to clean small cuts and scrapes. But in the garden, on the farm, and even around indoor plants, it can be an incredibly valuable tool when used correctly. Chemically, hydrogen peroxide is very simple. It is water, H2O, with one extra unstable oxygen atom, making it H2O2. That extra oxygen atom is what gives it such powerful garden benefits. When hydrogen peroxide breaks down, it separates into water and oxygen gas. That means it does not leave toxic chemical residue behind in your soil, on your plants, or on your harvest. In a way, it works like nature's own cleansing agent, similar to the oxygen-rich effect found in rainwater that refreshes the earth and helps bring air back into the soil. But how does such a simple molecule help protect our plants? Today, we are going to look closely at what happens beneath the soil surface, how plant roots respond to oxygen, how certain plant enzymes protect healthy tissue, and how you can use hydrogen peroxide in practical, everyday gardening situations. By the end, you may never look at that little brown bottle the same way again. So, settle in, get comfortable, and let's explore the 10 ways hydrogen peroxide can rescue your plants. 1. Curing and preventing the dreaded root rot. Have you ever watered a plant with real care, only to see it wilt, droop, and slowly turn a weak yellow? Many gardeners make the same mistake at that moment. They think the plant must be thirsty, so they water it again. But instead of recovering, the plant looks even worse. Then, when you gently lift it out of the pot, you do not find firm, white, healthy roots. Instead, you see dark, soft, mushy roots with a sour, unpleasant smell. That is root rot, and it is one of the most painful problems for any plant lover. In most cases, root rot begins with overwatering. Too much water fills the soil spaces where air should be, and once the roots lose oxygen, they start to suffocate. In that wet, low-oxygen environment, harmful pathogens and fungi such as Phytophthora and Pythium can spread quickly and attack the root system. But this is where hydrogen peroxide can become a true rescue tool. Because hydrogen peroxide is an oxidizing agent, when it reaches the infected root area, it helps damage and break down the cell membranes of harmful anaerobic bacteria and fungi. In simple terms, it helps reduce the threat around the roots. Then comes the second benefit. As hydrogen peroxide breaks apart, it releases fresh oxygen directly into the root zone, giving the surviving roots a much-needed chance to breathe again. How to apply it? If your plant is already suffering, remove it from the pot and carefully trim away all dark, rotten roots using sterilized scissors. After that, spray the remaining healthy roots with a mixture of equal parts 3% hydrogen peroxide and water. For a more serious case, you can soak the roots in a solution of 2 tablespoons of 3% hydrogen peroxide mixed into 1 liter of water for about 6 hours before repotting the plant into fresh, loose, well-aerated soil. For a plant that has been drowning underground, this is almost like giving it a breath of fresh air. 2. Chemical aeration for suffocating soil. Now, let's stay below the surface and talk about the structure of your soil. Good soil is not just dirt holding a plant upright. It has tiny spaces that hold both water and air, and those air pockets are essential for healthy roots. Over time, especially in heavy clay soil outdoors or in old potting mix that has broken down indoors, the soil can become dense and compacted. When that happens, those small air pockets disappear. Without enough air, roots cannot perform aerobic respiration properly. That means they struggle to produce the energy needed to take up water and nutrients. The plant may still be sitting in moist soil, but the roots are not functioning well. In a very real sense, the plant begins to suffocate beneath the surface. Of course, the long-term answer is to improve the soil itself. Adding organic matter, compost, perlite, or other amendments can help rebuild better soil structure over time. But when a plant is already stressed, hydrogen peroxide can offer a useful short-term intervention known as chemical aeration. When you pour a diluted hydrogen peroxide solution into compacted soil, that extra oxygen atom begins to break free. Sometimes you may even notice a faint fizzing sound. That fizz is oxygen being released into the root zone, helping bring temporary air back to roots that have been struggling in dense, tired soil. How to apply it? Mix 1 part 3% hydrogen peroxide with 3 parts water. Use this solution to water plants growing in compacted soil. It will not permanently loosen clay or rebuild old potting mix on its own, but it can provide an emergency oxygen boost. This gives your plants a chance to recover some strength while you work on improving the soil for the long term. 3. Eradicating fungus gnats and soil pests. Picture this. You are enjoying a peaceful morning, looking over your indoor plants, when a tiny black fly suddenly buzzes across your face. Then another appears. Then another. Before long, you realize you are dealing with a fungus gnat infestation. The adult gnats are annoying, but they are not the biggest problem. The real trouble is happening in the soil. Adult fungus gnats lay their eggs in the top layer of moist potting mix. When those eggs hatch, the tiny larvae begin feeding on fine, delicate root hairs. These root hairs are important because they help the plant absorb water and nutrients. When larvae damage them, young seedlings can weaken quickly, and mature plants may become stressed or stop growing well. Hydrogen peroxide is a very useful, eco-friendly way to interrupt this cycle. It targets the hidden stage of the pest problem in the soil, where the eggs and larvae are developing. How to apply it? First, let the top layer of your potting soil dry out slightly. Fungus gnats love constantly wet soil, so drying the surface helps reduce their comfort zone. Then mix 1 part 3% hydrogen peroxide with 4 parts water. Thoroughly drench the top 2 inches of the soil with this mixture. As the peroxide bubbles and oxidizes, it helps destroy the soft-bodied larvae and unhatched eggs on contact without leaving toxic pesticide residue inside your home. You may need to repeat this treatment once a week until the flying adults disappear completely. But when done correctly, it is one of the most satisfying ways to bring a fungus gnat problem back under control. 4. Defeating powdery mildew and fungal leaf spot. Have you ever stepped into your garden and noticed a strange white powdery layer spreading across the leaves of your squash, cucumbers, or roses? That pale, dusty coating is usually powdery mildew, one of the most common fungal problems gardeners face. It may look harmless at first, but it can quickly block sunlight from reaching the leaf surface. Once that happens, the plant's ability to photosynthesize becomes weaker, and its growth can slow down dramatically. Now, you might be asking, if hydrogen peroxide is an oxidizer, won't it damage tender leaves? That is a fair question, and this is where plant biology becomes fascinating. Healthy plants have adapted over millions of years to survive sunlight, heat, and natural reactive oxygen compounds. To protect themselves, they produce a powerful enzyme called catalase. This enzyme works incredibly fast, helping the plant break down peroxide before it harms healthy tissue. In fact, one catalase molecule can neutralize millions of peroxide molecules in a very short time. Fungal pathogens like powdery mildew do not have the same strong protective system. So when a mild hydrogen peroxide spray reaches the fungal growth, it helps oxidize and weaken the fungus, while the plant's own defenses help protect the leaf tissue. How to apply it? Mix about 4 tablespoons of 3% hydrogen peroxide into 4 cups of water. Pour the solution into a spray bottle and lightly mist the affected leaves, making sure to reach the undersides, because fungal problems often hide there. But remember this important rule: never spray in the middle of a hot, sunny day. Heat and strong sunlight can speed up chemical breakdown and may burn wet leaves. Always spray in the cooler, softer light of early morning or late evening. 5. Awakening old and stubborn seeds. There is a special kind of hope that comes with planting seeds. You cover them with soil, water them gently, and wait for that first sign of green life. But sometimes, especially with older seed packets that have been sitting in a drawer for too long, the seeds simply refuse to wake up. They remain in damp soil, exposed to bacteria and fungi, and instead of sprouting, they may rot before they ever break the surface. Hydrogen peroxide can work like a wake-up call for stubborn seeds. In nature, seeds can produce small amounts of peroxide as part of the signal that it is time to break dormancy and begin growing. When you soak seeds in a mild hydrogen peroxide solution, you support that process in two useful ways. First, the peroxide helps sanitize the outer seed coat, reducing fungal spores and bacteria that could attack the young seedling before it emerges. Second, it can gently soften the hard outer shell, allowing water to enter more easily and helping the seed begin the germination process faster. How to apply it? Mix 1 tablespoon, or about 15 milliliters, of 3% hydrogen peroxide into 1 cup of room temperature water. Let the seeds soak in this solution for 15 to 30 minutes. After soaking, rinse them briefly with clean water and plant them right away. With the right seeds and good growing conditions, you may notice faster, more even germination, as those once stubborn seeds begin pushing through the soil. 6. Keeping hydroponic systems clean and algae-free. For anyone who enjoys the clean, precise world of hydroponics, you already know how important it is to keep the water reservoir balanced. Warm, nutrient-rich water sitting under strong grow lights can quickly become the perfect environment for algae and slimy bacterial biofilms. This buildup can cling to tubing, slow down pumps, block flow, and steal dissolved oxygen that your plant roots desperately need. Adding hydrogen peroxide to a hydroponic reservoir can help oxidize that organic sludge. It supports cleaner water, reduces unwanted buildup, and can help raise dissolved oxygen levels around the roots. In a system where roots depend entirely on water for both nutrients and oxygen, that extra cleanliness and oxygen support can make a real difference. However, there is one important piece of chemistry to understand here, and it is called the Fenton process. If your nutrient solution contains naked or non-chelated iron, hydrogen peroxide can react with it very aggressively. This reaction creates powerful hydroxyl radicals. In an empty system between growing cycles, that kind of reaction can be useful for sterilizing equipment. But around living plants, it can damage or destroy the delicate root hairs that do most of the absorbing. How to apply it? To maintain a living hydroponic system safely, make sure your nutrients use chelated iron, such as FIDA or Phi-DHA. Chelated iron is more stable and helps prevent wild reactions with peroxide. Then use only a very gentle maintenance dose, about 2 to 3 milliliters of 3% hydrogen peroxide per gallon of water. That is enough to help control algae and support oxygen around the roots without pushing the plants into oxidative stress. 7. Stopping the invisible spread of disease. As gardeners, we are in many ways surgeons for our plants. We prune old growth, cut away diseased leaves, take cuttings, divide roots, and repot plants into fresh homes. But imagine a surgeon using the same scalpel on one patient after another without cleaning it. That would be unthinkable. Yet in the garden, many of us do something very similar when we trim a diseased leaf with our pruning shears, then immediately use those same blades to take a cutting from a healthy, valuable plant. The problem is that many plant diseases are invisible at first. Fungal spores, bacteria, and even certain plant viruses can cling to tool blades, pot rims, and the inside surfaces of old nursery containers. We may not see them, but they can travel easily from one plant to another. Bleach is often used for cleaning, but it can be harsh, corrosive, and it must be rinsed carefully because of the residue it can leave behind. How to apply it? Hydrogen peroxide is a useful, residue-free option for cleaning garden tools and pots. Keep a small spray bottle of undiluted 3% hydrogen peroxide in your gardening kit. Before taking cuttings or moving from a sick plant to a healthy one, spray your scissor or pruner blades and wipe them clean. If you are reusing old pots, soak them for 20 to 30 minutes in a mixture of equal parts 3% hydrogen peroxide and water. It helps destroy hidden pathogens, then breaks down into water and oxygen, giving your next plant a cleaner, safer start. 8. Bouncing back from stress. Plants may look tough, but their roots can be surprisingly sensitive. When a plant is moved into a new pot, shifted into a new growing space, or left sitting through days of heavy rain, the root system can go through serious stress. The finest root hairs, which work like tiny drinking straws for water and nutrients, can become damaged, weakened, or suffocated when oxygen levels drop too low. When a plant is struggling from low oxygen, it can often look like it has a nutrient problem. The leaves may turn pale, the stems may become weak, and the plant may stop taking up water properly. Many gardeners see this and quickly reach for fertilizer. But when roots are already stressed and lacking oxygen, adding strong nutrients can make the problem worse and may burn the damaged root tissue even further. How to apply it? In this situation, what the plant really needs is a little time to recover and a gentle supply of oxygen around the roots. Mix a mild maintenance solution of about 4 tablespoons or 60 milliliters of 3% hydrogen peroxide into 1 liter of water, then apply it to the soil. This gives the root zone a temporary oxygen boost. That local oxygen support can help the plant stabilize, use the nutrients already present in the soil, and begin developing fresh, healthy root tips again. 9. Repelling aphids and spider mites. Now let's return to the leaves for a moment. If you have ever dealt with aphids clustering on tender new growth, or spider mites leaving fine webbing under the leaves, you know how quickly small pests can become a big frustration. They feed on plant sap, weaken new shoots, and can leave your plants looking tired, curled, and stressed. Hydrogen peroxide is not a systemic insecticide, and it will not provide long-lasting pest control inside the plant. But it can work well as an immediate contact deterrent. The mild oxidative action is irritating to soft-bodied pests, and the sharp, clean scent can help drive them away from the treated area. How to apply it? Mix 1 teaspoon of 3% hydrogen peroxide into 1 cup of water. Spray this gentle solution directly onto the pests, paying close attention to the undersides of leaves and the tips of new shoots where aphids often gather and spider mites like to hide. Always follow the golden rule of spraying leaves. Test first. Spray just 1 leaf, then wait 24 to 48 hours and observe the plant's reaction. Some plants, especially certain ferns or orchids, have very sensitive leaf surfaces and may not tolerate even a mild oxidative spray. If the test leaf stays healthy, then you can continue treating the rest of the plant with more confidence. 10. Safely cleaning your harvest. Finally, we come to one of the most rewarding moments in the entire growing journey, the harvest. After weeks or months of care, you finally gather your ripe tomatoes, crisp lettuce, fresh herbs, and all the other produce you have raised from seed to maturity. But before that beautiful harvest reaches your table, it needs to be cleaned properly. Even homegrown produce can carry soil from the garden bed, tiny bits of organic matter, or unwanted microbes. And when we think about foodborne pathogens such as E. coli or Salmonella, it becomes clear why washing fruits, vegetables, and herbs is an important final step. At the same time, no gardener wants to take fresh, homegrown food and wash it with harsh soaps or strong chemical cleaners. How to apply it? Food-grade hydrogen peroxide naturally breaks down into water and oxygen, which makes it useful for cleaning produce when diluted correctly. Fill your kitchen sink with cool water, then add about half a cup or 100 milliliters of 3% hydrogen peroxide. Let your fruits and vegetables soak for about 20 minutes. After soaking, rinse everything thoroughly with clean water and dry it well. The result is fresh, bright, clean produce that is ready for your family to enjoy, while still preserving the natural garden flavor you worked so hard to grow. Conclusion. And there you have it, my friends. 10 practical, science-backed ways hydrogen peroxide can help rescue, protect, and support your plants. From oxygen-starved soil and struggling roots to pest problems, fungal issues, tool cleaning, seed starting, hydroponic systems, and finally the harvest on your kitchen counter, this simple molecule of water with extra oxygen shows just how powerful basic garden chemistry can be. But before we finish, I want to leave you with one very important principle. Hydrogen peroxide should be treated as a reset and rescue tool, not something your plants depend on every day. Because hydrogen peroxide is an indiscriminate oxidizer, it does not only affect the harmful fungi and bacteria we want to control. When we repeatedly drench soil with it, we can also reduce beneficial microbes, helpful bacteria, and mycorrhizal fungi that support long-term soil health. These living organisms are part of what makes soil fertile, balanced, and resilient. If we use hydrogen peroxide too often, we may disturb that natural biological balance. So use hydrogen peroxide when there is a real reason. Use it when you are fighting an active infection, trying to save roots that have been sitting in wet, low-oxygen soil, cleaning tools, sterilizing pots, or giving a stressed plant a short-term oxygen boost. But once the problem is under control, step back and let the soil recover. Allow it to dry properly. Give beneficial microbes time to return. Then focus on the fundamentals that keep plants healthy in the long run. Good light, proper drainage, steady airflow, and living soil that supports root growth naturally. Nature is always trying to return to balance. Our role as gardeners is not to force every process, but to guide, support, and correct problems when needed. And sometimes, when a plant is truly struggling, a careful dose of hydrogen peroxide can give it that extra breath of oxygen it needs to recover. Thank you so much for joining me today on Earthly Delights. If this deep dive into garden science was helpful, let me know in the comments. Have you ever used hydrogen peroxide in your garden, your farm, or your houseplant collection? Until next time, keep your hands in the soil, keep your roots breathing, and keep your heart open to the quiet wonders of growing things. Happy growing!